Welcome to the Heart of Law podcast. My name is Mirena, and I'm your host. I've invited on my podcast today attorney Willie Powells III. Willie is a Houston lawyer that has accomplished a lot in his professional career and is really just getting started. Meeting him and working with him has really impressed me, which is why I asked him to come on the show and share some of his journey with our audience. Willie, welcome to the Heart of Law. How are you today?
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm happy. I'm glad to be a part of the show and excited to participate.
Thank you. Yeah. Talking to you, Willie, about your education and experience, I was truly blown away. You have such a unique story, and I think the audience is really going to appreciate this because people, as they go through the education system, they're trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives, struggle. And that struggle is real. And some people graduate and then they go to law school and it's a lot of school and a lot of debt. And then they say they go into the workforce and then they hate it. And then there is other people that are in other professions like doctors and engineers. And then they somehow decide to switch careers and go and pursue law. So I have come across so many different people with so many different stories, but yours is like literally one of the top 3 unique stories I've ever heard, which is why I really think it's going to be great to have you share that with us today. But so you graduated college and you've got, why don't you tell me about you're in college, you're studying chemical engineering in one of the top universities, Drexel University in Philadelphia. And a lot happens during your time in college. So tell me about that.
Sure. So starting from being born in Houston and kind of being educated and up, brought up in the Houston area, greater Houston area, they have schools, magnet schools here, where you can get a little bit of taste of what your career may be. So they have like high school for health professions, high school for engineering professions, performing and visual arts, so on and so forth. And so my parents have a medical background. In fact, they had their own medical practice, and I grew up in a community with doctors. From an early age, I always thought I would be a doctor. I actually thought that maybe I would go into brain surgery. And so one of the things, my dad would always kind of tease me about, he's like, well, look, if you're going to be a doctor for the rest of your life, why don't you consider doing some other things? Try, see if you like this, see if you like that, play with this and play with that. So kind of dovetailing off of that advice, instead of going to the high school for health professions, I went to the high school for engineering professions. And you know what? This time my dad was right. I really enjoyed being an engineer. He went to Purdue and he has an engineering background as well. And so I think he kind of had an idea that I might like engineering as well. So I did the engineering at the high school. I did very well at the high school, which afforded several great academic opportunities for me all around the country, such as Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Drexel University, Lehigh, and so many other schools. Mm-hmm. And so, long story short, I chose to go to Drexel University, which is located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Drexel, much like MIT or some of the other highly known technical schools, they used to be DIT, Drexel Institute of Technology. They were all about engineering. So any engineer that knows if you get a chemical engineering or engineering degree from Drexel, you're somebody, right? It was funny. I saw one movie with Will Smith, and he referenced Drexel University. In one of his movies, he kind of said, "You went to Drexel?" or something like that. So, wow, made me feel a bit better. But he, he's from born and raised in West Philly is where I spent my days. He's from Philly. So people from that community know it's a very, very, very good. So I chose Drexel University. Again, got to work with world-class professors. I could go all day of, those interactions, but what I'll spend a little bit of time speaking about is Dr. Cato Laurencin. Cato T. Laurencin, MD, PhD, double doctorate. Went to PhD. Went to Princeton, MIT, Harvard. Chemical. He was my entry-level chemical engineering professor. He was practicing as an orthopedic surgeon while teaching, and had his own scientific laboratories all at the same time. He almost had a whole building pretty much dedicated to his operations. Wow. Long story short, he's kind of like those guys you see in the movies where it's like the whole school revolves around this professor in a way, like a really, like, not nutty professor, but really
right.
And so I got a chance to work with him. And as I was finding what I could see myself doing, I couple a lot of that experience with having worked with Dr. Laurencin. He would let me shadow at the medical practice. Obviously, I was working in the chemical engineering. I worked in the laboratories along with other engineering positions, Pico Energy, air products and chemicals, and several other engineering opportunities were afforded me. That kind of gave me a feel for, is this something I want to do? Is there something else I want to do? And a lot of that is kind of, in working with others and experiencing, because again, when I first left Houston, I was thinking I would be coming back and then going to medical school. But in that 4 years, while I was at Drexel, that's where I kind of got to discover, I got to work with others, see and do other things, such as take the MCAT, the LSAT, the GMAT. I took all of the biology, since I didn't know I had like dual majors. I had dual and double majors.
I mean, you've got to be like the smartest man on earth. That's so incredible. Wow.
So it was that opportunity to really let my brain grow and develop, really discover, since they had canceled their football program, there wasn't so much sports for me to do, although I still worked out and did stuff like that. So I really got to hone in on, what's going on up here. I continued to play my instrument, violin.
I saw that. Wow.
Trained in that, and I picked up a minor in piano so that I could continue to I played by ear beforehand, but I never formally was taught piano. And so again, this was the opportunity where I had nothing to do but study and work and live on campus. I mean, like my professors were friends. So
I mean, most kids in college are too busy drinking and partying, and here you are, like, doing everything. What kind of kid were you?
That's very funny. Yes, that's right. Very, very, very busy. Very little time for a lot of other things. But okay, and part of that was because, again, I was still thinking that I would be going, into medical school. And I was thinking, okay, I've got like residencies, I've got special training and all this. It may be 4 or 5 years, 8 years or more after. And so I was like, I have very little time. So in fact, Drexel was a 5-year university. I finished in 4 years, because even taking all of these extra majors and minors and courses, because I was thinking ahead that, okay, I've got a lot of schooling before I can even get started. So
how do you find, I mean, seriously, I'm just fascinated, right? Because that's something that you were thinking ahead of, of everybody else. It was like by design, you were planting all these seeds to figure out and give yourself options. Do you think that, I mean, that's not the norm, right? Do you think you got that from your parents, or was that taught to you while you're growing up? Like, where in the education system did you pick that up? Because I think that's such an incredibly valuable sort of mindset to have as you're going through school.
Well, it's kind of funny because my background, it sounds like I'm so polished, but when I started off, I was not a straight arrow. and we might as well talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
When I was in elementary school, I was walking backwards, not forwards. So meaning like, just kind of not on the right track, up from down.
Sure.
And so there was a lot of cultivation and attention, friendly and guidance that was given to me that helped me at an early age to understand what is the right path and what is the wrong path. Okay. So understanding that your reputation precedes yourself, and there's another opportunity. So people think, hey, well, this guy, is he a problem maker? Is he a good guy? I had that following me in elementary. When middle school came, I had an opportunity to go to a new school. I could be a different person, and I don't have to make poor decisions. Yeah. I can make positive decisions. Right. And so I started striving to be on the honor roll, getting A's and B's and mainly A's. And so I kept that trajectory. Now, I also had a great example in my big sister. She was always right. Like she was a good girl. Okay. She was good. The teachers loved her. Yeah, I could see she set a good example for me. And so she was really good in elementary. They all loved her. And they're like, oh no, here comes your little brother. Is he coming to my class next year? No, we went to the same middle school. Okay. She had the great reputation again ahead of me. And I said, look, I'm going to do right too. So I did really well. Again, got to go. You have to be admitted into these magnet schools here, the engineering schools. You have to take exams and all this. So it started early for me. And so I made a lot of mistakes early. I learned the power and the magnitude, the value of what happens when you make poor choices versus making positive choices. And so, and I had a lot of great influences around me. So your parents, my sister, other people who were doing the right things. And of course, my parents groomed me and they're like, well, look, you make good choices, these things, you can live in these type of neighborhoods, you can go on these type of trips, you can make poor choices and then you get to see what happens from there. So again, even before going to college, I knew that, I'm going to make good choices. I understand that it's very, very important that, that I think about the future, that I think about ahead, because I'm thinking about where I want to be, where do I see myself 3, 5, 10 years from now. And so all of that kind of played a part, if that makes sense, a part of the pudding. Sure. That time I got to college, I wasn't really about playing, although I had some fun, of course, but I was really focused on, I'm here for a reason. Yeah.
So, so you've graduate Drexel with a degree in chemical engineering, and you've got a minor in biology and piano or violin, and then you take the LSAT. And what happens?
Right. So in the midst of what I was working on at Drexel, so a major in chemical engineering, a concentration in biomaterials and tissue engineering, a concentration in the ethyl benzone plant. And then also we did the dual minor in biology and in piano. While I was doing all of those things, I was also taking the LSAT, the GMAT, and the MCAT. And so, right, it was, and so because at that point, I wasn't sure if I was going to go to graduate school next, or if I was going to go either into medicine or law. Those were my 3 main choices at that point. Right. And because I was thinking about, okay, do I want to be a Ph.D.? Do I want to stay in this world or in this education world, or do I want to come back out? Because that's a whole nother world. Those guys, those professors that got multiple degrees, like a thermometer, like you can just live there, like military, you can have multiple badges, or do I want to come back out to the real world? And I was like, okay, this is fun, I like it, but I want to come back out. of the education world, and then I want to actually practice. And so, so I took the LSAT. I did well. I could have gone either. That's why I did the biology and all of that in addition to the chemical engineering, because I had to have the credentials, the education credentials to go to medical school. So that's why I added the biology and all of that good stuff. But towards the end, after having shadowed with Laurencin, understanding what a doctor is, having grown up in that community, and where I see myself and where I think I could shine the most.
Yeah.
I made a decision. I said it's going to be the law. And a lot of that is because, with medicine, don't get me wrong, I love it. I think it's great. And they do a wonderful, wonderful, tremendous thing for people every single day. They're heroes. They're living heroes. One of the things that's different, a lot of times they go to the hospital, they go into their office, and that's kind of what they do. Lawyers, okay, so don't forget, I'm an entertainer, okay? I'm a violinist. I've performed. I've won scholarships. I've traveled around. I speak. I like to get out. And I said, the law will give me that platform where I can go in the hole and work, because you got to do it as a lawyer. But guess what? You get to come out of the hole sometimes, and you can make a presentation before a jury, or you see lawyers everywhere, if they're going to be politicians, if you see them, a lot of times you see them in corporations and so on and so forth. And it's like, I know how to go in the hole and work and research and get done what needs to be done. But the law, I felt that platform will allow me an opportunity to shine, be the other side of who I am, right? Present. And so I felt like, well, she can shine too. Dr. Falsey has shined quite a bit the last few years as a doctor. He's been very popular, but you get it. You've seen the movies, you've seen the lawyers that go into the courtroom, and that was that career, at least when I was in college, I thought that is something I think I could see myself doing 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Yeah. And so I chose law.
So, I mean, what a journey. What an incredible story that is. So how long have you been practicing now?
So I finished law school, 06. So, so I finished law school, and I went back 2 years to get my MBA. So 04, finished law school. 06, I finished all of my under education, which included the MBA. And that's when I kind of started. So I usually say 06. Okay.
So, is the practice of law what you thought it would be, or is it completely different?
And so much of life is what you make it. But what I learned is when I left the education world and I went to law school, I just jumped in a whole new world, whole new world. And I was so fascinated. I was so intrigued. I was just figuring out, and it's only 3 years, right? But you got intellectual properties, you've got oil and gas, you've got all sorts of areas just within the law. And a little later, I'm sure we'll talk about how I got to personal injury within the law, the practice of law. But just going to law school, and by the time I was doing law school and, like I said, kind of working on my MBA, which we could talk about that too if we want, I was like a professional student. I mean, my teachers really were my friend. I finally became that student, like, that, at the end of the class, they go up and they run up, they talk to the teacher, the chapter 3, and why were you thinking, and what, and it was fun. It was fun. And so I embraced it. I've enjoyed it. And it's been everything and then some. It's been everything and then some. So there's no doubt that I, by following my heart, my mind, and my experiences, that I ended up where I'm supposed to be.
So there is no doubt in my mind that you have passion for what you do, because that's what I pick up on, and that's who I'm attracted to in this business, and that's who I want my clients to be in talking to you and doing business with you. I know that you have passion. Is that something that you work at, or is it natural for you? Like, do you have to work at finding things that get you excited, or is it simply you're like, oh, I have this case and I'm just going to make the best of it, or I have decided to start my own firm and I don't know exactly how to do that, but I'm going to make it the best of it and just enjoy the ride. Like, I'm very curious about that.
That's a challenging question. I don't know if that comes back to my faith, if that comes back to my upbringing in part, if that comes back to, just wanting the best. I think there's a lot of maybe that's a more complicated. There's a more complicated response to that because I think it's a mixture of.
I'm very interested in complicated responses, so go ahead.
I was afraid you say that.
Because if you think about it, well, we could talk about sort of the outside of, the business, the manifestation of your hard work. We could talk about that, and we're going to talk about that because I think there's so much there, that the value there that we can convey to people who are on this journey, similar journey. But I'm also very, very deeply interested about the inner workings of somebody's mind and heart, because you have to take that and turn that's energy that you turn into ideas, and ideas that turn into things and cases and results. And I think that's the essence of all of us. And I'm interested to understand how you dance with that on a day-to-day as you run this operation, and again, we'll kind of go back to how you started it all, but just curious on that level and how you sort of get yourself motivated.
Well, just a lot of it, I think, does boil down to kind of who I am as a person. And I'll say that because I've always been like the school president and, the vice president of the Student Bar Association and law school. And if you just look down, I mean, I've been helping getting my friends out of trouble since I was getting in trouble. I had friends with me getting in trouble, and they wanted me to talk to the teacher about, I want to still go to playtime, Will. Would you go talk to Miss Smith and see? Or getting in trouble with me, I still want to come to your birthday party. Talk to me, what can I do? So I've been, and it's funny, but when I look back, that's why I say, I think I know I'm in the right spot. I've been helping people get out of trouble, dealing with issues as a child growing up. Now, what am I doing as, helping people, giving back, passionate about leading and helping others. And I think I found myself more. So when I got to college and then I got to actually see, like, in addition to Dr. Laurencin, Douglas and several other people along the way. And it's like, it's real. It's from not just you see these people on the movies, on the camera, it's like, wow, this guy, like, that was, like, to me, that was magical. That was like seeing a purple elephant. And he was a black guy, okay? Just, he actually looked like Dr. Phil not Dr. Phil, Will Smith's uncle. Will Smith's uncle that was a judge in the TV show. Okay. But they actually kind of look the same too. But it's like, so to see this, like, wow, how did you do this? This is a person that could, like, read a book, like, at lunchtime or something. And I remember when the department head of the chemical engineering department came down, I was in the office working on something, and they had the whole, the pi 3.14. They had a contest, spontaneous contest, how many digits after the period. And they were going like 10, 15, 20 digits. No, pop quiz, spontaneous. I was like, this is unreal. And of course, Dr. Laurencin went the furthest. He went further than the department head. He's like the only black professor there. I mean, let's just call it this guy was special. And so to get to work with somebody like that, and he used to always say, push yourself harder.
Mm-hmm.
He would always say, you can do it too. And I'm like, wait a minute, understand. A little bit more. You were born with a little bit more than others. Just making sure you're saying I can do this.
You have an advantage here, Professor.
You were born with something a little bit more than what I'm working with. Understand? But he would always say, go to the next level. Push yourself harder. You can do it too. And so like taking that, seeing that, interacting with that, and being inspired not only by him, but other people, even other people in other arenas that are doing great things, like Michael Jordan, The Rock. We can go down the list. These people, they found what they truly love, what they're passionate about, and there's no limits. It's not practice. It's fun. It's fun what they do. They found what they're passionate, and like they say, the money will come. All the rest of that will take care of itself. So it makes it easier to get up and shoot 1,000 free throws or whatever. Because I mean, this isn't, this is it. It makes way. It makes way for you, and the feelings that you get, and the aspirations and the dreams, and you keep seeing even people like Kevin Hart. I mean, a comedian who has a shoe deal, a Nike, a comedian. There's no limit in the world. We've got our problems. We definitely have got our problems. But in the world we live in which today, if you have got what you're doing right, you're helping people and you're very great. There's no limit. MC Hammer had a cereal. He had an actual cereal, Mike Tyson, as an example. Now, okay, he didn't make all the right decisions.
Right.
But
I get what you're saying. Look,
all right. And so it's not work, and you get inspired by the things that you're accomplishing, which remotivates you further to go out and let's go to the new areas, the echelon. Let's go to the unknown. Let's go to space. We've got right now, they're trying to get to Mars. So I mean,
we're trying to populate Mars, right? And it started with an idea which everybody thought it was a crazy idea.
Exactly.
I love that energy, and I love that about you, and I think that's why we connect, and that's why it works, is because I can be in a room with 50 lawyers, and all of them are smart as heck, right? But you can tell who's empty, and you can tell who is full of love and passion and drive, and it's coming from a good place and not from a place of greed, or not from a place of just ego wanting to dominate. Like I can tell. And for me, it's almost like, I'm like, I want to work with that person. And I do, because I can. And I have obviously had to work really hard to prove myself that I'm worthy to receive that kind of work. But that's the level I want to be at. And it's like you said, it sort of re-energizes you, remotivates you to keep going further. And I love that idea of going into the unknown, by the way, whether it's space or our inner workings, our own heart and mind. I love that you've tapped into that, because it's clear that you have. I think that's where the true treasure and the true abundance and the true unlimitedness is, if that's a word. I think you're so tuned in, and that's so refreshing.
Thank you. It's a work in progress, but it's something that takes on a life of its own. And so as long as I get out of the way, like, am I going to miss the shot? Am I going to get all of that negativity out of the way and just hone in on those possibilities and helping others and what that vision is showing? Somebody, you live in Orlando, he thought about Disney World. Could you imagine that? The guy who created Disney World, and look at how it's Disney World today. I mean, just it started with a thought in somebody's mind. They laughed at him when they're like, okay, we're gonna have roller coasters and the big dog is gonna run around and hug people and a mouse is gonna come out the room. They were laughing at him, but look at it today. And so
your legacy, yeah. So tell me about the story of, you know, you picking the practice area that you did and then deciding to start your own firm, because I think that is, you know, that's, you could be the smartest person on earth, but it takes courage. There is a different kind of strength that you need as a person. You don't have to be a lawyer. It could be anybody that starts a business, somebody that says, I'm going to stop a 9 to 5 to go take a chance and see if I can make this work. Tell me about that.
Right. So while I was in law school, I did really well the first year. That afforded me great opportunities to work both at ExxonMobil, and I also got an offer from JP Morgan and Chase. And then I didn't get a chance to work at JP Morgan and Chase because the way that the time frame was scheduled for me to work at JP Morgan and Chase somewhat conflicted with while I was working at ExxonMobil. So although I was offered to work at JP Morgan and Chase as a lawyer, which I really wanted to do, I was unable to do it because of the conflict with working with Exxon. Gotcha. But I enjoyed working with Exxon, and I mean, in the chemical engineering world, that's the Mecca. I mean, that to me, at least at that time, you know, you got Shell, you got Exxon, you got Phillips, but Exxon was what it was all about. And so when I got that offer from Exxon, I was like, yes, I'm in, you know, as a chemical engineer and a lawyer. And so that was just such a wonderful, cool opportunity. And it was my first time where I started making big checks in life. And I mean, big checks with commas. And I was like, wow. And you know what else I found? They have some geniuses over there too. They've got some brilliant minds. You know, these people that figure out where the oil is and what instrument needs to be created in order to abstract it. And I mean, they have some beautiful minds. And I found, you know, while I was working at ExxonMobil, I was just really intrigued and I loved it. And so it was great. I really enjoyed it, but it was only for a season. So after the end of that season, I ended up going back and I was finishing up my second and third year. I worked at other places. I wanted to get additional other experiences. So I did some family. I worked at intellectual property. So Buscop, the Winnie Buscop Law Group, her client was AT&T. Here in Houston, which, well, AT&T is everywhere. So, right. And so massive. And she was actually, so it was a woman-based law firm. She was one of their biggest minority from the standpoint of being a woman lawyer who was handling. And so she welcomed me in. I got a chance to really see what patent law was all about. What she didn't do was litigation. So she only did patent prosecution. She didn't do litigation. And we had a long talk one day. I was like, well, I want to see. So you hear about the guys that, you know, when Microsoft sues Apple and there's a $20 billion verdict because somebody stole the concept from one or the other. And she was like, I don't do litigation. We just do the patent prosecution. She said, well, I said, I want to start, what is the litigation about? What is that all about? And she's like, well, if you want litigation, she said, if that's something you think you're interested in, what time better than now is to start working on seeing if litigation is what you want to do. Mm-hmm. So from there, I got to work with some other law firms, large law firms, where I was doing litigation. So towards the end of that experience, again, so I had a very large, I was doing like contract work. I was kind of like in the basement. I didn't really get a chance to really go in the courtroom or meet the client. We were reviewing documents, pulling records together and giving them to the lawyers who were kind of doing all of the work above the ground. And we got an announcement. Two things happened during that period of time. One, which was a precursor to the second one. My sister called me, the one that I've already referenced in this podcast. She had a very basic question for me, and I can't remember if it had to do with family law or criminal law. Somebody got in trouble or somebody needed a lawyer regarding a divorce or something, and she called me. Okay. Mm-hmm. She called a little brother who was on the wrong track, who's now on the right track, having vast success, great success as a lawyer, working at the big law firm downtown. And guess what? I could not answer her question. Mm-hmm. I can tell you about docket review. I can tell you about engineering and the law, all of this sophisticated stuff, intellectual property, but the very common everyday issue that you would expect a lawyer to know about, like divorce or somebody got put in jail. How do we get them out? I couldn't answer that question. I thought, am I a real lawyer? Am I a real lawyer? Right? So that hit me first. And then shortly thereafter, they started downsizing. Mm-hmm. Oh, so just before that, I'm sorry, one other, this is important. Again, making very big checks. Had that question, my sister hit me, and I was like, I don't know if I know the answer. I'm working through that. But I had just gone out and I bought a beautiful black Corvette. Beautiful. Beautiful black Corvette. Okay. And
a sign of success. You're on the right track. You're finally buy yourself a nice car. I get it.
All right, so the big and they kept me in there. It's like those commercials they played at the Super Bowl. They had me in the corner all night. You're going to default on this car. I was like, no, I'm not going to default. I promise. I'm not going to. It was a lot. They had people that saying, "What you're paying for this car is what I pay for my mortgage. Are you going to?" I'm like, no, So they basically pledged me in the back of the dealership. I drove home. As I was driving home in that car, the sun was coming up. So that happened. And then a few months later, they started downsizing. Wow, you're right. You're right.
Wow.
And I said, I'm not going to default. And I said, I'm a real lawyer. So this was the opportunity for me to say, what do we do? Do we go to another large law firm, or do we go ahead and hang the shingle out?
Yeah.
And continue to start getting the other side of that litigation experience that I've been lacking. And so I went with that last choice. You talk about courage.
Yeah.
It took all the courage in the world because failure was not an option.
Right.
Okay. And so I chose to put the little shingle out very early in my career. Now,
How old were you when you?
I was like, I don't even know, like really early, because you figure I was coming out of law school. So it's very early, right? And so I hung the shingle out, and I got the support of 3 lawyers that kind of brought me in and started showing me how this boutique litigation practice works. Right. And so Eric Gaston, George Tennant, and Derek Harmon had a little boutique law firm downtown. They predominantly did criminal law. I think they did a little family or whatnot, but that gave me a place to go. And they let me see, how do you get clients? What do you do when you get the client? What do you do when you walk into the courtroom? This was my first time walking into the courtroom, talking to the judge, arguing cases, writing and preparing motions. And so this was the real deal for the very first time for me. Now, I had a lot of build up. I had some background going into it, but this was the real deal. Yeah. So with that, I got a chance to get out, kind of see how it works, work with several different clients. I learned very early in the career that family was not for me. That that takes a special breed of lawyer.
Honestly, I don't know how lawyers do that.
Yeah.
It's so, I mean, it's needed, right? But it's a very stressful area of law.
Yeah. I mean,
So I don't blame you.
Family wasn't for me. I thought criminal was great. It's highly litigious. So that got me in. That got me a lot of experience talking to judges, arguing issues, pertinent issues on various cases, talking to juries, trying cases. And finally, that's where I got to cut my teeth. And then guess what? I started feeling a lot more like a lawyer, like a lawyer. Somebody called me and said, hey, somebody punched me in the face or whatever. What do I do? If somebody called me and said, hey, child support, he's not paying or she's not paying, or I knew what things to do. And this is what kind of, and that inspired me. That inspired me, and not losing that black Corvette inspired me beyond all measure, right?
So you kept the Corvette?
Still got it. It's a trophy. It's not going anywhere.
Is that the stick shift, right?
That's the one you saw. That's the one you saw from the inside. From the inside. It's still beautiful from the outside.
I love it.
Yeah. I still drive it too. Of course, I've got other cars, but that car is it's sentimental.
Exactly. Sentimental is the right word.
It's sentimental. And as I was going through kind of getting this real, law practice down, how do you acquire cases? How do you work cases? That's when I got my first personal injury case, a major predominant case, which was a trucking case, which we could tell that whole story. Then I had the client, I had the Corvette, and I had this practice. We weren't going to lose either one of them. And so then that's what turned my attention to personal injury. We could talk about that. I haven't looked back since then. That's what I've been working on developing and doing since that time forward.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. I think I want to take a little time to focus on, to talk about, the law firm as a business, right? And really, because I think the biggest, as a consultant for law firms around the country, helping law firms grow, and having deployed close to $700 million now in the space, the biggest problem that I see is that lawyers make mistakes, sometimes very, amateur mistakes when they're running a business, and things that, by hiring the right person or putting a little time into the operations, a little time into marketing, that you can thrive. I mean, as you know, there's a lot of money in this business: personal injury, class actions, mass torts. And you live in a market that, it's a big market with a lot of opportunity, but at the same time, there's a lot of competition in your market, right? Personal injury attorneys are everywhere, and people don't necessarily like personal injury attorneys. There's a stigma. So in order to be a successful firm, truly successful, you have to overcome the stigmas, and then you have to learn how to run a business, and then you have to have talent to, pursue the litigation. And you certainly need to have access to capital without any limits to be able to do all the things that you can and want to do as a lawyer. So, what I've seen with you, right? You're a client of mine, which is great because I get to have this conversation with you. You have this ability to understand that your law firm is also a business, and you've taken steps to ensure that you're successful on the business level, not just as a litigator. And many times, right, people just have a business model by default, meaning it's whatever comes, however it unfolds. And then you have people like you who have a business model by design. And that makes a really, really big difference. Walk me through the process of you. Now you have your firm, you've decided to do personal injury, you love that, you're in that vein and you love it. How do you go from thinking, how do I run this business as a business and not get distracted by, having now 100 cases in the pipeline that I need to work up and make sure I don't fall behind, right? Or do the wrong thing. Right. Walk me through that.
Right. It's interesting and a very, very wonderful question that you ask, because it is a challenge. But one of the things that I think helped to set myself up for success is that I started from the inside out. So you're looking at the person who took the trash out, who turned the lights off and on in the morning, who returned the phone calls, every single aspect of the business when it was just me and the Corvette to where it is today. I had to do. So I know the importance of intake and how that's supposed to run and work. I understand the follow-up, how important that is. I understand that, yes, you do need to win in the courtroom. You need to make sure you have a great showing in the courtroom, but also you need all the components that go along with it. That's not your only client. Now you've got 3, now you've got 4, now you've got 6. And for a long time, it was me. It was me by myself, largely handling all of the cases. And each client believes that they're the only one, even if they're number 45, right? And so that attention, addressing the need, the reassurance, all of that is a part oftentimes people can overlook if they've never had to deal with it before. If they come from for example, like if I just came from a big law firm, I had secretaries and everything, and then you just shift them over to now you're running an office, they may not understand that you better call Ms. Jones back because she wasn't happy. And if she's not happy, what could be a molehill can turn into a mountain, right? If you don't address it right now and make sure that Ms. Jones is happy before the end of the day, right? Yeah. And so, I'm not bragging, but no lawsuits filed against us, no bar complaints. So it's the little things that you have to understand. It's the little things that sometimes that, then you see the big picture at the end, but I'm still that person that at the end of the day, before we walk out of the office, were all the phone calls returned today? Have we set up the meetings for tomorrow in terms of our department heads? What's going on for next week? Because I understand that if you let it go undone for too long in any particular area, it can start to unravel. So with that as a backdrop, kind of starting from the inside and building it out, I think that gave me an unfair advantage or the advantage to know what it takes to not only acquire clients, but to keep clients, and the power of knowing that if you keep clients happy, that's how you keep your lights on, because they're going to go out and they're going to come back to you and they're going to tell others about you. That's how I did it.
Yeah. So what specifically did you put in place in terms of your operations, your marketing, the intake process? Tell me some more tangible examples of things that you did to ensure that the business is running smoothly, that machine is being greased constantly, and how has that evolved over time?
Right. So, like, dovetailing off I got my MBA too. So I was already, of course, thinking ahead, which I believed helped. But in addition to getting the MBA and doing these things, the smaller things that I was saying, if you don't have a client, you don't make any money. So the importance of being able to acquire clients and keeping clients. But in addition to that, basically helping people, making people happy makes me happy at the end of the day. And so for many years, as I was doing that and growing the practice, I realized I had a realization. I'm helping a lot of people in Houston, but Houston is the fourth largest city in the union, arguably the third, at the rate at which it's growing, particularly now. And there's a lot more people who don't know about me. There's a lot of people, and the people who know about me love me, and they're referring their friends and family, but there's millions that are flying over the head. Okay, and so as I'm working and growing and developing, I got a flyer in the mail, and it was from a company. I think it was called Funding Circle at the time, and they said, "Would $500,000 help your business?" Is what it said. And you get all sorts of emails and letters and stuff all day, every day. I just thought, but for some reason I actually opened up this particular letter. And they're like, it's going to be a simple process. We just need a little bit of information. You'll know before the end of the week if you're going to qualify or not. And so again, it's me, my Corvette, this practice. And I'm looking at that. Well, how do we get to all those other people who don't know about us, right? So I took that opportunity. I didn't get the 500,000, but I did get a number that I was able to then utilize, put back into my business. I didn't take that money and go buy another car or something like that. I put it back into my business, and it helped to create a little megaphone to all the people who didn't know about me. So now I could get online. I could do stuff like find law, pay-per-click, social, search engine optimization and stuff like that. And I could make a few appearances on TV and stuff like that. So I utilized that seed, responsibly. And what it did was remarkable. From using what was a very, very small seed, I found that I was able to pretty much almost triple or even quadruple what I had before.
Wow.
And yes, wow. It blew. I said, oh my goodness. And even understanding this industry, it takes time. So you get those cases in, but you want to know when that seed paid off for me? During the pandemic. Wow. Some of those cases that were acquired, took time to develop. Yeah. And they turned around just before the pandemic. A lot of those bigger cases started paying out. And I had no worries, going into that period because I knew what was in the pipeline. And so long story short, I realized that sometimes outside sources, and in this case, an outside source, was able to really help scale our practice upward. And I saw the power and the impact of that, and the benefit that it had for me long term, even when nobody knew the pandemic and all these things were going to be happening, but how it paid off dividends for me down the road, which also set me up for other opportunities, such as your company, that have come along, down the road, where then you can just dovetail off of that and continue the upward scale and growth.
Yeah, no, it's such a refreshing conversation, right? Because it really is kind of simple, right? In the sense that, first of all, you just have to know what you want. Second, then you look for it, and there is resources around you all the time. It doesn't matter, again, what business you're in, but then just try different things and don't have to lose your shirt doing it, right? It's not like you're going to Vegas, but you're trying something different, and you're starting at a small scale to see how that works for you. And it's only by trying that you can find what works for you. And so as we sit here today, you are a well-known lawyer around Houston, and Houston, like I said, is a big market, and there's a lot of advertisers. Yet somehow I met with you in Houston a couple weeks ago, and we walked into a room and people knew who you were because you have these billboards in Houston, and you have such a unique smile and presence about you, and people know you. And well, first of all, you're a celebrity, kind of. Right? But how amazing, because being a minority attorney and being able to represent so many people that are not well represented, right, in so many different communities, you're able to tap into that, and then look at the story that you have, this journey you've had. And so you combine these awesome marketing resources and capital resources and continue building and molding your business model, bringing in the right talent, bringing in the right people. All of a sudden, those are the ingredients for success. So I'm interested to know from you, how do you expand your marketing efforts from here and maintain this position and improve this position that you currently have?
Right. I think it's really, as you mentioned, the sky is the limit. One of the things that, there's a lot that goes into this, like, because anybody can get money. And if they don't know what to do with that money,
I've seen it.
They can lose the money. And so, I go to workshops, I go to Chris summits, I'm constantly learning this industry. But to getting back to what you're saying, the heart of what the question is that we plan to continue to scale upwards. Yeah. So starting with that example of having a very small seed, and then maximizing the recoveries of it by a little bit of internet and maybe a little bit of TV. As the seed is a little bit bigger, we know what works and what to do. And then we know what areas we need to turn it up in. So now we can add some radio. We can add, and we continue to facilitate the development.
Yeah, the growth, yeah.
Make that megaphone bigger. Right. And the thing about it is branding ourselves, so that if people like the brand, if they like the Kool-Aid, if they like the flavor that you're bringing, if you make it more available to them, yeah. Every time they go to the gas station, they can get it. Every time they go to the restaurant, they can get it. Every time they go to the movies, they can get it. They're going to get it because they like it. And so we're going to make that brand. We're expanding our territories, enlarging, the megaphone, say, look, we're helping more people. Like I said, we just got a 7-figure case resolved, about a week ago. And so, you let people know about that, and they already like you. And what happens is we have T-shirts. And so what T-shirts is the key. That's the answer, everybody. That's right. So our fan base gets excited because they go by and they see the billboard. They're like, hey, that's my lawyer. Oh, hey, I saw that guy, and this is home. So a lot of people, part of that base is they went to school with me, or they know me from football or sports or from music, the orchestra or whatever. And they're like, I know that guy. They get excited. And so we give them reasons to be excited. We say good things. We let them know that we're giving back to the community. And we use that sounding board to energize the base. The base goes out and they do so much of the work for us. They do a lot more work, right? But they have to hear from you. They have to see you. And we need to interact with them. And we got to keep doing a good job for those people that we're taking care of every day. And that's a winner's formula. If you're really taking the time and making sure that you care about what you're doing on a daily basis and you're monitoring those things, then, you're setting yourselves up to
momentum.
Yeah, that's
You
all.
have momentum at that point, and all you're doing is you already have a good foundation. Now you're just taking that foundation, just adding on to it,
Right.
and bringing in people. So, so running a business is one thing. Running people, right?
Yeah.
Finding people to work for your business
Right.
that have the same values as you, that's tricky, especially now. People complain that nobody wants a job, right? So how do you select people that you bring in to be part of your team to represent you?
It is a very delicate process. It's one of the most important parts to this whole puzzle, though, because you have to realize the people that you bring on are reflections of you. Of me in that regard. And so people who display the same ability to care, people who have the same desire to want to go higher. One of the things we do, some of the things we do, there's a lot of things we do, but creating a platform where people come on who join have the ability to win as well.
Yeah.
And you'll be amazed what people will do. I mean, people are talking about 9 to 5. People will work way outside of the box if they believe that they have an opportunity to win. It's amazing.
Not only to win, but also just because they know that they're on the right side and they're doing something good. When you can give people a reason, a purpose, a cause and people flourish under those circumstances. So yeah.
I mean, and we see it all over. We see it in sports. We see it, certain corporations where it's like, wow, those guys every year, they're always at the top. They're always, so again, an extension of myself. So caring about those people and letting them see that this is, and being true to that, and so it's a formula, but it's a very delicate formula that you're finding those people who share those like ideals, who have the ability. Obviously, they have the ability, they have the credentials and all of that. But anybody can put a resume together. They have companies that do that now. So the screening, the interviewing, right? The track records, right? And then cultivating that, the ones that are selected, and then monitoring that success and what their patterns are, is all a part of the formula to really grow and develop, and to get so like every McDonald's or whatever, Frenchies or whatever you go to, the chicken tastes the same. That's the thing. So that any attorney that they're speaking to, any receptionist that they're speaking to, it's like it's an extension of my voice. Because at some point it got so big to where I couldn't do it all by myself. That was one of the hardest things, to let go and to let somebody else do it. So then pouring myself into them so that they are hopefully a good representative of me, so that it's kind of like they're hearing from me, and then of course they will hear from me at some point in the process. But yeah, all of that is a part. All of that is a part of getting that team together.
So what, as you know, I'm a huge fan of law firms that diversify, right?
Sure.
And I talk about diversifying really in everything, right? Finances, sources of income, practice areas. You got to diversify. My staff, my team always, it's like a joke, right? It's like the key is always to diversify. But truly, right? If we talk about it, it is the solution to a lot of problems, especially to a business that needs cash flow, right? And one of the things that you've done, and you've started to do this again very thoughtfully without throwing yourself into, too fast or spending too much money has been dabbling into some mass torts, and again using the capital that you have acquired now to get into these different practice areas. So if you hear of a project, or if you hear of something, that you are able to go into it thoughtfully and understanding what piece of the puzzle that is into the big picture. Tell me about your experience with mass torts, and how is that developing?
Yeah, it's interesting. It definitely brings a smile to my face because the adventure just gets bigger. It's like, I went to law school and that was a whole nother world. And then somehow, some way, I ended up with mass tort, and boom, it happened again. A whole new world, like that song.
Right.
A brand new, fantastic point of view. I mean, it was wonderful. I mean, I was blown away. I mean, I saw so many new superstars. To me, it was kind of like if you go to a middle school basketball game and then you go to an NBA game, and the guys are slam dunking and alley ooping and, dribbling between their legs and shooting from the midpoint of I mean, it's like, it's a whole nother level. It's a whole nother level. And so I was like, oh my goodness, why am I so late to the game? And learn that it's still new, kind of, when you think about it, from the larger scheme of things. But still, I was like, wow, these guys have been doing this for years. And so I was just fascinated, completely blown away. And I was really honored to get that invitation to go, and I went, because some people heard about it and they haven't gone, they haven't taken.
And this is the event that I was at in Houston, right? So this is like about a year ago.
Yes. Oh, well, this is, I'm talking about the very first time I went.
Okay. This is before. Okay.
Yeah. For the very first time I went to Vegas.
I see. Okay.
And saw the big mass tort convention that they have biannually. And I think it was just before the pandemic. So I only got to go once, but that's all I needed before. And so it blew my mind to see all of the topics that they were talking about and how they were helping hundreds of thousands of people around America and the world. All of the hot topic, all the hot topic issues, and to see how it works, to get to meet the people that are doing it, and to get to understand the science behind it, like the people, the scientists, the people who are actually done it. You get to hear from those people, and you can see, and then you see the corruption, like, the corruption, like the corporations,
greed,
greed, and like they don't care that the product is killing the people. Put more of it out at a lower rate, because they're thinking profits, and it shows us the need, how much of the need is out there for good lawyers to get out there and to correct that corruption, to stop it and say, hey, look, Roundup or whatever names we want to use, you can't do this. You don't drink it. So don't tell people that it's drinkable, right? I just see that deposition playing over. It's like, you want to drink it? The guy's like, no, I don't. I just say it's drinkable. Well, okay, so don't say it. And so and once you get to have that experience, and you can see how they are misleading, people like my mom and my dad, and people who will just never know. They'll never go to mass tort. They'll never really see it on that level. And it's like, there's a need. We need to get out here and we need to make a difference, because they don't care. The people who are behind it, the pharmaceutical companies, the corporations, or whoever that are behind it, do not care. And somebody has got to correct it. And so the need was so great. I was just fascinated, of course, and it's helpful too. In addition to the topics that are discussed, the people that you meet, they have a lot of the vendors there. That's where I found my software management program that we use right now for the law firm. The networking is like no other. And I mean, it's in Vegas, for Christ's sake. You're going to have some fun. So, I mean, it makes you want to come back and learn and bring other people and grow and develop. And that's something I totally want to be a part of on a much larger scale. What can I do to help and grow and develop those issues as well?
Well, you're certainly on the right path. I mean, especially now that we've met. and look, I can't wait to see where this leads. If you would like to maybe briefly talk about sort of your vision for the next 5-10 years, and maybe, you know, in that amount of time, we're going to have another one of these and kind of see the journey, right? So give me an idea about your future plans with the firm.
Right. So, like, as we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, we're really at the beginning. You know, again, just being blessed to keep being rebirthed in this ongoing journey. And so I see myself now, you know, even though I'm, you know, 5-10 years in, really being born again in so many regards. And because what happens is you get the experience, and you make some mistakes, you learn from them, and it's like, oh, now I get a fresh start knowing what to do without having to make so many mistakes or learn along the way. And really, the sky's the limit. I mean, I am very excited about growing the practice. Like you said, picking world-class talent. I mean, I understand what this is about. I mean, if you come to this office, we want to give you a world-class experience. We are changing the game from within. As you talked about reputations and stigmas, we want to change all of that. And again, starting from that person who had to do it all to now, as I'm teaching people and molding myself, knowing what things need to be said and done to keep the high ratings and all that stuff going. We're developing it from the inside out to continue to grow and expand. I mean, you know, we're in Houston now, but I see ourselves certainly all over Texas, and even breaking out of Texas and going into the States with our single event and with our mass tour. So I'm like the Texas Battle Axe now. You can call me the North American Battle Axe. In a few more years, the North American Battle Axe. We're excited about expanding our borders, working with people all around the state. We've already got some cases now in your neighborhood, Florida, Georgia. We're kind of, you know, we're in the South, but we're going to, you know, and I've got friends and family from Philly. They're calling me. It's a little thing that I can pick up. So it's starting. It has to start somewhere. You know, we'll keep turning that megaphone on more so people can see what we're doing, how we're helping. Again, this case we just resolved, they're actually from Ethiopia, but they found us in Houston, Texas, because the accident happened in Texas. And so that was my first international case. That's a whole nother podcast. But now we're getting more and more people through Ethiopia and other places, even beyond the borders of America. So again, we're just at the tip of the iceberg of where we're looking to go and what we're looking to do over the next, 2 to 5 to 10 years from now. So, I mean, I could go on and on and on.
Yeah, I'm just a big fan. You're very inspiring, and it's in many ways, I know you work a lot and you work hard, but the part that's effortless about you is just the mindset of growth and abundance and wanting to make a difference and actually making a difference and anchoring in those values, throughout your career is just incredibly respectable. I think you're definitely going places. You already have, but I see this empire only expanding, only growing, and I am honored that I get to work with you and your firm and see you thrive, because it makes me happy when you're happy and we are aligned.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Full circle. Full circle. Well,
Yeah.
likewise, and always, we're very happy for opportunities to grow, because we know the importance of when we grow, we reach back out and we help other people grow along with us. And bit by bit, that's how we make our community, our city, our state, our country, our world a better place. And so it's very, very, very important. Very important.
Well, Willie, thank you for doing your part. You are a delight, and I am just so thrilled to have you part of my world, and again, working with you. So thanks for making time to be on this podcast, and I'm sure we'll do this again soon.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a delight. Always a pleasure working with you as well. So excited about the union going forward. And thank you so much to your audience and all those who have listened. I hope there was some good nuggets we were able to share, or I was able to share for you all today as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Take good care.
Thank you. Thank you.